Hello there, me Hearties. This is Trinity from Heart Scales, and this video is all about our new Scaly Edition, Kiriko. Let's jump in so you can see what she is and how we prepped for her. We purchased a 24-inch long by 18-inch wide by 12-inch high PVC reptile habitats enclosure, which equates to about a 22-gallon tank on dubia.com. This is me opening it here and Suki trying to help. This is the minimum size I would recommend for the pet we've adopted in this video, and we chose this one because it is a good sized front opening enclosure for a really good price. In fact, my experiences ordering from and working with those at dubia.com have been really reliable and pleasant. They also dedicate a lot of their time and support to reptile rescue, so personally I like to purchase from them when I can. They gave me a mallet. That's cool. Following the instructional video they linked to us, which was funnily enough to a YouTuber who actually built some things out of order and yet was our guide for correctly putting together this enclosure, we pulled all the parts out of the box and removed the plastic protection from the sides and doors. I really like how much the doors look like glass, even though they're actually plastic and very lightweight. The whole enclosure is actually pretty lightweight, which is great for someone like me with relatively weak arms. Then we put in all the connecting joints and hammer them in with the mallet. It did take a little elbow grease to get the pieces in, but it wasn't too bad. The guide mentioned it was best to do this on a hard surface, so we're actually putting this together on the floor in front of our kitchen, and I'm trying really hard not to scare my bunnies the whole time I'm hammering away. They're actually not too far behind me here. And here I am lining up and sliding in the bottom of the enclosure, which was actually quite easy to do, so that was nice. And yep, looks good. Now I'm hammering in the front piece. Something I noticed while I was hammering in all these pieces, especially here, there was a lot of black stuff coming off it because it was like shredding part of the plastic as I was cutting it down. That's what you see me picking off there. This is the front of the enclosure, so I'm ensuring before I go hammer away that the side pieces are in correctly. There was a double venting on one side and only a single vent on the other. The double vent is for the sliding acrylic doors that are on the front of the enclosure, so it was important to check that I had it positioned right. Once I had all 4 side pieces hammered in and looking good, the next step was going to be to apply double-sided 3M tape to this long bottom piece of acrylic that would go behind the sliding doors. So I've got it all set up here with the tape, and that's the tape that came with the enclosure setup. This was my least favorite part of the process of building this enclosure, mainly because it took forever to remove the red strip from the other side of the adhesive tape. It was some serious stuff that did not want to cooperate with me, and so I ended up speeding up this part of the video because of how long it took to get this red stuff off. Once I completed that, however, I got it stuck to the bottom of the enclosure. It held just fine and looked pretty good. Next, I screw in the vent covers. These are to allow cords to go into the enclosure nicely if needed for things like probes, heat tape, or lights. Okay, so here we were trying keyword is trying, to attach the security bars across the bottom of the mesh lid. This was included for those who'd be keeping fixtures resting directly on top of the screen lid, and we knew we were going to have to do that at least for a little while, so I definitely wanted the added security of additional support on the lid to prevent the possibility of light fixtures from falling into the enclosure. However, we realized after me trying and failing for a while, and then Jared trying and failing for a while, that a regular screwdriver, like that you use with your hand, was not going to work because the holes weren't actually threaded to allow this. So we had to break out the drill to actually make this happen. Drill, baby, drill. Much easier. Now I could finally attach the screen mesh top and hammer everything down once I made sure it was fitted on nicely and that the back was where it was meant to be. Again, this is because it has double vents in the front where I'm going to be putting in the sliding doors. So once I had everything clicked down into place, I could then hammer it all in and remove more of those black plastic shavings from hammering down the corners. Now I had to put the handles onto the sliding acrylic doors, which was quite easy. The holes were already threaded through and they fit perfectly with the screws that were provided, so this was a nice, easy part of the job. The last step for finishing this enclosure was putting on the sliding doors, which you want to make sure the first door goes into the first vent, not the second one, and easy peasy. So for the animal that we were putting in this enclosure, we decided to begin with a simple basking light and a low-watt UVB coil bulb. Now, in many cases, a coil bulb like this is not ideal because the UVB output is often too low for most species of reptiles, and also depending on how high it is from where they bask. And the coverage of UVB is also quite small. Get kind of a spotlight of it. However, after getting our initial checkup for Kiriko at a very well-respected local exotic vet, we were recommended to use this because of the lighter, almost leucistic or albino coloring on Kiriko meant she was more susceptible to burns. In most cases, we would suggest something more like an Arcadia T5 UVB bulb, pictured here, which we also purchased at the request of the rescue that we adopted Kiriko from. But for Kiriko, this was actually not the best option. It's always important to research proper heating and lighting outputs for your specific species of reptile, as well as the enclosure type and size they're in. There is some debate within the reptile community about albino pets and their need for UVB lights and whether or not they can be harmed by them. Ultimately, what I can say right now is that research on UVB lighting for reptiles shows us benefits in providing it, but you must exercise caution and really do your homework on what is the appropriate amount for your specific pet. Too much UVB can cause sunburns, and the exotic vet that I spoke with also happened to be a longtime breeder of this animal that I'm adopting, and in her practice and at home had lots of experience with them. So she had also seen far too many of them come in with burns from overly strong UVB lighting setup. For Kiriko, the proper Ferguson zone is between 0.7 and a maximum of 1.4 UV index. This is a measure of the appropriate UV range for an ectothermic critter like our pet reptiles. I will leave a link in the description below to a great article by reptilecenter.com that explains what the Ferguson zone is, how you can measure it like we did with a solar meter, and which Ferguson zones your pet reptiles fall under. Here we have Kiriko's initial setup for her brand new enclosure. At this time I only had the one hide. I will be adding two more hides. One will be a humid hide that I'll put in the middle, and the other one will be a cool side hide that I'll actually swap with that little rock hide I have there. So this is Kiriko, everyone. She is my new leopard gecko that I adopted about 3 weeks ago now from a local fish and reptile rescue. I just adore her. She's so sweet and so cute. They had originally nicknamed her Lemon, which is pretty cute and very fitting considering her extremely light yellow coloring, which is again the main reason why it was recommended to me. I use a lower wattage UVB coil bulb. Again, not what I would typically see recommended for most reptiles. She settled in relatively quickly. The second day after I got her, I tried feeding her some superworms, and she did take 4 of them, no problem. Then 2 days later, she wouldn't eat anything I offered her, and it went like that for almost a week before she decided to eat again. From everything I've read and researched, this is totally normal, and as long as she has normal weight and good-sized tail, they can actually go quite a while without eating. But she did start eating again, and now she's taking superworms, mealworms, black soldier fly larvae, and hornworms. I tried feeding her dubia roaches several times, and she's either usually just not interested when they're on their backs, or she can't catch them on the right side up. I've also made some other small changes to her enclosure, as you can see here, since we first got her home. So more recent videos and pictures will look a little different from her initial setup. I also got this super cute decal with her name on it that you can see on the left-hand side there in blue. From the My Reptiles and Me shop on Etsy, which is owned by Jayla, and they make a whole bunch of pet decals for enclosures and other things. So I'll leave a link to their Etsy shop in the description below for those of you who would like one. As you can see, she's also very active and super photogenic, and she's kind of a cute, sweet little goofball. That's Kiriko, me Hearties. She has been a really wonderful addition to our home, and she will be my pet gecko for the rest of her days. If anyone is wondering or might be concerned, by the way, or is just curious, her diet consists mainly of black soldier fly larvae and superworms, with the occasional mealworms and hornworms. Mealworms should be fed sparingly because of their little nutritional value, and my understanding is that because they are largely just exoskeleton, they could cause impactions if fed too often. Black soldier fly larvae, on the other hand, are extremely nutritious and make a great staple for a leopard gecko's diet. Based on how she reacted to them initially, I don't think she had ever had them before, but now she seems to love them and how soft and chewy they probably are, and expects me to feed her now every time I open up her enclosure. I'll post video updates about her in a few months so you can see how she's doing. In the meantime, be on the lookout for our next video where we unbox 3 more Western hognose snakes, and the next part of the Get to Know Our Snake series about Pixel, J-Man's first hognose snake. Thank you for watching, everyone. Until next time.